Is this enough blackberries, Uncle Tyler? Tyler's niece Julia asked. He closed the short distance between them and looked into the bowl she held in her blackberry-stained fingers. She had about a quarter of what he'd picked himself, but he could see the eagerness to run and play, making it impossible for her little legs to hold still. Yep, looks good to me. Nana and Granny Alice will appreciate it. Go ahead and go. He nodded toward the large plot of land that had been in his family his whole life. His aunts and uncles all lived in Cottage Grove. His cousins, too. Tyler's parents lived in a ranch-style home smack dab in the middle of it. Tyler lived there, too, being the only one of his siblings who wasn't married. They were close. His whole family was, and always had been. They gave him his space and privacy, but at 24 years old, it was starting to feel a little strange that he still lived at home. Not that he didn't pay his way or help, because he did, but yeah, he was still living with his parents. And he had to admit it wasn't always as perfect as he made it sound. Tyler was the youngest, the baby of 5 siblings. His parents weren't supposed to have been able to have any more kids, and then, suddenly, his mom was pregnant. It had been a difficult pregnancy and an even tougher birth, one Tyler and his mom almost hadn't made it through. She always said it was why they were a little closer, the two of them. When you almost die together, it does something to you. And that was also how he got the name Lucky. Not that he went by it. Tyler much preferred his middle name. Cottage Grove was a small town, a close-knit community. Everyone knew everything about everyone, and they took care of their own. It was a rare thing as far as Tyler was concerned. Well, he guessed it was. He hadn't lived anywhere else to judge it by. He watched Julia's skinny little legs push faster and faster as she ran back toward the house to find her cousins and play with her grandparents. Tyler picked a few more berries to ensure he had enough, then made the trek across the land he'd recently mowed and back to the house. You finished? His mom asked as she stood in the kitchen, washing dishes, with an apron on over her dress. He wouldn't pretend his family wasn't slightly old-fashioned, but again, it was the way they'd always lived, the way everyone he knew lived. Yeah, I'm going to take them over to Nana and Alice's before one of them pops a vessel or something. His mom laughed. Nana was his dad's mom, and Alice was her best friend. Alice and Nana had lived together from what felt like the beginning of time. Tyler had never known anything different. From stories he'd been told, when his grandfather died, Nana took it hard. He'd been her world. It was only a few months later that Alice's husband passed, too. They hadn't moved in together right away, but Tyler didn't remember a time when they didn't live together.